So this week we are going to have two lectures, this lecture and tomorrow lecture, tomorrow morning. So then we are then after this week, we are going to have one more lecture. Then we are going to finish. We will be finishing our lectures with next session. I'll show you guys the schedule. So this. This is our schedule for this course. We have finished 6 topics already. So we are here today on June 13, here in Sri Lanka. Then this week, these two, we are going to, I'm going to conduct these two lectures. And then our last lecture on June 26th. Then after that, mock exam is going to be the following day. Then I believe that you guys are aware about the final exam on 11th July, it's Sunday. And the second paper is due on June 27th, second paper. Then we have to finish 3 more. I have to finish 3 more lectures. So we are with this lecture. This lecture, as you can see on in schedule, so it's going to be a discussion on Buddhist rituals. We have several names. Before that, I want to remind you guys, in terms of exams, as you know, usually depending on the situation, we conduct on exam via online. So I believe that you guys are well aware on the rules and regulation, how it conducts, because you already answered. So it's going to be next month. I think Maba and the University of Kalani both will inform you about rules and regulation, how it conduct. If you have already did it, so it's not going to, I'm not going to, I don't need to explain the way it conducts. So let's go on with our today discussion. It's about Buddhist ritual. It's about Buddhist ritual. Maybe you have heard some kinds of similar words or synonyms, like rites, rituals, ceremonies, and festivals. We find they have different meanings and interpretation. Anyway, in general, we use, in most cases, we use this word, the term rituals. So I hope that it's going to be an interesting discussion, because everyone likes rites and rituals and these kinds of things. So in every religions, we find rituals. In Buddhism too, we find a lot of rituals. So before starting our discussion, we have I have a video, it's on YouTube. So let's watch it, and then we can get an idea. This is a unique video that I found on YouTube. In India, at present, how people practice rituals. Why this video is unique? Because where the Buddha was, as I already show you guys, where the Buddha was born, or Prince Siddhartha, and his enlightenment and his passing away. This is about Bodh Gaya, where the Buddha became enlightened or awakening. So every Buddhist visit this place from all over the world, from every Buddhist tradition, and then they perform rituals. Some practice meditation, some depending on the persons or traditions. They perform kinds of rituals too in this place where the Buddha became enlightenment. So in Bodh Gaya. So in this video, you can see how people practice ritual. The unique thing is everyone perform, every tradition, not only one tradition, Theravada, Mahayana, Vajrayana. Everyone is here, and how they perform rituals and how they practice meditation, we can see in this video. Let's take a look at, and then let's continue with our discussion. Jorge.
Bante Corey lost his internet.
Oh.
So one of us can play. You can put in the chat.
Yeah, I can put it.
let me try.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to go share. Share video clip. Have to learn how to do it. What? Did that?
Audio?
No, Toshita is doing it.
We are not hearing. We cannot listen.
Toshita, are you sharing this?
I'm back. Sorry.
Oh, Corey, good. You see it on the chat. Are you able to see the chat?
I won't see. The audio was not working. If you want to resend the link, I can.
Okay, let me
I'll
send the link to you. I can copy and paste again. Okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
अलिक विस्तारैसँग हामीले 12 बजेसम्ममा हाम्रो कार्यक्रम समाप्त गर्ने
That face that is usually covered by her phone has finally made an appearance. That face.
पुरा ठोबानी कार्यक्रम तपाईहरु सुरु गर्नुहोस् है हामी यहाँबाट शान्ति मनोमन पढ्छौं सबै शान्तिसँग बसिदिनु तपाईहरु
Can you hear me? Yeah, this is Theravada ritual. Theravada ritual actually Thai monks, Thai Buddhists, how they perform rituals in Buddha. Tibetan Buddhist, Tibetan monks, Vajrayana tradition, at the same place. Here you can see two groups, Vajrayana Buddhist and Theravada Buddhist from Sri Lanka. The people who have worn white clothes, they are Sri Lankan Buddhists. And these are Tibetan Buddhist monks, nuns, and how they practice.
brush your teeth in less than 10 seconds with this revolutionary toothbrush?
It was created by a well-known dentist.
Actually, in Tibetan Buddhism, what we find kinds of techniques in order to get concentration. These are kinds of meditation techniques too, by using kinds of equipments. You see here, they recite mantra and they use kinds of equipments in order to get concentration, and even they always focus on concentration through lot of ritual practices. This is Theravada chanting, Theravada chanting. Tibetan monks. It's about recitation of mantra in Tibetan Buddhism. Thai monks, they are practicing meditation. There is a stranger.
If you're trying to lose fat, stop doing cardio. This sounds backwards, right? Well,
Vajrayana monks or Tibetan monks, they are performing kinds of rituals. Hindu people also use these kinds of musical instruments in Hinduism, in Hindu rituals. But we can see Hindu influence on Vajrayana Buddhism. Okay, that's the end. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you just saw, the diversity in terms of Buddhist rituals. You know, everyone comes, everyone perform rituals in the same place, but depending on their own beliefs and developments. Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. Everyone was there in these rituals. But let's talk about what's going on with you know, what is the early Buddhist view on ritual. That's the most important things. We always try to focus on early Buddhism, what the Buddha taught us. So when we talk about early Buddhism, Buddha, what he always, you know, he saw a lot of rituals in India in the 6th century BCE, like, you know, Vedic people or Brahmins, they did a lot of, they performed a lot of rituals, and they killed animals, even human beings for ritual purposes. That's the that's what the Buddha was worried, because it's about lives. And even animal sacrifice, what we call yaga or yajna in Pali, we say. When you go to the internet, on YouTube, you can find a lot of videos in terms of Hindu yaga or sacrifice, because at present too, Hindu people perform these kinds of sacrifices, rituals. Even in the 6th century BC, 2500 or 600 years ago, they did the same thing. Buddha observed these things, and he then he refused these kinds of activities, sacrifices, killing animals' life, even human beings. So, but even in Buddhism too, it's not about ritual. Buddha always focus. He want everyone to practice his spiritual path, what he discovered. I mean, in terms of eightfold path. So, but what happened? So, depending on person's intellectual capacity, everyone needed, everyone couldn't focus on meditation or mind development. Meanwhile, they needed some kind of religious activities based on their capacity and intellectual capacity. That is how ritual came up. That is how Buddhist ritual came up. But what we see in early Buddhism, Buddha refused, animal sacrifices, a lot of Vedic rituals. And in the case of Buddhism, because of lay followers, especially because of lay followers, they did not have time to practice meditation or mind development. So, but they needed some kinds of religious activities, That is how, as Buddhism, when Buddhism developed, as a religion, Buddhism developed as a religion. In the case of religion, what we find a lot of religions in the case of religion. So in almost every tradition, then we find, as time went on, develop kinds of rituals. In many cases, it's about lay people, but what we see, as you saw on, in this video too, monks, nuns, even monastics, they perform rituals. Sometimes in later Buddhism, like in Vajrayana Buddhism, they focus, as I already explained, they have developed a lot of ways and techniques to develop concentration through rituals. That is what we observe. You just show it. But we find in early Buddhism, as I already explained, on many occasions, Buddha rejected kinds of ritual practice, not only animal sacrifices, but ritual practices in general, because he wants everyone to focus on spiritual path, what we call the Eightfold Path. To develop mental culture, what we call meditation, to everyone to achieve Nibbana, the final goal of Buddhism. But it's not, that's not practical actually. That is why in Buddhist traditions, Theravada, Mahayana, Vajrayana, and even in early Buddhism too, we find some kinds of rituals. When the Buddha was alive, we see Some people ask relics. Some people ask relics from the Buddha in order to worship, in order to perform religious rituals or religious activities. It means the origin of ritual when the Buddha was alive. But Buddha discouraged ritual practices. He encouraged people to practice the path to Nibbana. But it was not practical. When Buddhism developed as a religion, a lot of rituals have developed. That is what we can say in brief. So this situation has changed a lot, especially in Theravada Buddhism too. We find ritual, but in the case of Mahayana Buddhism, we find a lot of ritual rather than Theravada tradition. It happened in India. In Mahayana traditions, Mahayana Buddhist, they had developed a lot of ritual practices. When it comes to Tibetan Buddhism, what we see, the everything's, I mean, they like, as you see, mantra or sutra recitation with Hindu influence. In Hinduism, we see two aspects, especially in Hinduism, we find a lot of rituals. What we call faith or bhakti. In Sanskrit, we say bhakti. Hindu people, Hinduism teaches us bhakti is a way of it's a way of liberation. It's a way of liberation. In order to someone can achieve liberation through ritual practices. That is what teach in Hinduism. Then, as we see, we find a lot of rituals in Tibetan Buddhism, third Buddhist tradition. It developed in India. We find a lot of Hindu influences in terms of rituals, but they are focusing on, they are using some kinds of instrument or techniques, especially mandala and mantra. Through these, what they hope to achieve some kinds of spiritual development, or even nibbana or spiritual. It's about spirituality. So this is what I can say in brief in terms of the origin and development of Buddhist rituals. At the beginning, there was no that much ritual. That is what I can say in at the time of the Buddha. Buddha also criticized, as I already explained, with ritual at his time, especially Vedic rituals. He wants people to get attention on developing spirituality based on mind culture, mind development. But when Buddhism developed as a religion, a lot of time to time, from the early Buddhism, we see kinds of rites, rituals, even ceremonies had developed throughout Buddhist history. Throughout Buddhist history. If you want to know, or if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. So then let's go on with our discussion. Next, we are going to discuss some selected rituals, or when we talk about ritual, it's a broad topic. A lot of rituals in 3 Buddhist tradition. In a short time, we cannot cover or discuss everything. As we did rest of this lecture series, I'll be selecting some important significant rituals in terms of 3 Buddhist traditions. Everyone, actually I have put here Theravada ritual, but not only Theravada, but in every Buddhist tradition, people practice dana. Offering to the Buddha is one of them. Offering to the Buddha, offering to the Sangha, offering to the Buddha. So it's about, it's a part of dana. It's a ritual in especially in Theravada, Mahayana, Vajrayana, in every Buddhist traditions. In Pali, we can say the word Buddha Puja, offering to the Buddha. Actually, what we can see, people offer to the Buddha when he was alive. That is how it started in the 6th century BC. But when after his passing away, people develop kinds of symbols. People used to develop. For example, I'll be show you guys. For example, Buddha statue, and even Bodhi tree, pagoda. We find a lot of symbols throughout Buddhist history. When he was alive, people used to respect him, offer to the Buddha. But after passing away of the Buddha, people wanted to offer to the Buddha. Then in that case, kinds of objects symbolize the Buddha. Then people respect, offered whatever the things to these objects. You see here, the stupa, Bodhi tree, Buddha images. These are the main 3 objects. They are very famous. They are popular in Buddhist practices. But what I can say, especially Buddha image and stupa, Bodhi tree is not that much popular in every Buddhist tradition, but especially in Theravada Buddhist tradition, it's a symbol of the Buddha. I'll show some pictures. Here you can see in Sri Lanka, in terms of Theravada tradition, how do people offer to the Buddha? Flower, kinds of things, lotus. You see in front of the Buddha image, a monk is performing ritual. It means, offering to the Buddha, reciting gatha, stanzas. In Pali, we say gatha. And here you see lay Buddhist, how they perform Buddha Puja, offering to the Buddha. Usually, you see here on the table or altar, kinds of things that they have, Buddhists have a place. Maybe not only flowers, but foods, fruits, kinds of juice, and flowers, even a candle or whatever the things, maybe sweets, lot of things. Because why? As Professor Gombrich says, as Professor Gombrich, he's a British scholar, Buddhist scholar. He did his doctoral research in Sri Lanka. Then he say in his research how Buddhist, especially Sri Lankan Buddhists, follow the Buddha, consider the Buddha. On one hand, they consider Buddha as a human being, as a unique person who discovered the reality of the beings and world, or he found Nibbana. On the other hand, they offer to the Buddha, they are looking for something, blessing or whatever the things, by performing kinds of, they worship the Buddha. Maybe like in other religion, like, in Hinduism, like a deity, or from two perspectives. By performing religious activities, they are looking for something, because they need blessing in lay life, in terms of prosperity, in terms of, avoiding bad things. And when they embark a journey, when they start their studies or education. So on many occasions, they offer to the Buddha and they perform rituals, and they are looking for blessing, not only blessing, but as we discussed in our previous lectures, merits also. One thing that they hope to achieve through these ritual practices. So here in Thailand, Thai tradition, how they offer to the Buddha Puja, offering to the Buddha is one of the main rituals. Even though I have put here examples from Theravada tradition, but it's in every tradition, in every Buddhist tradition. Monks and lay people, they are performing, they are worshipping the Buddha, offering to the Buddha together. You see here a tree. This is called the Bodhi tree. Maybe you have seen it, maybe not. So it's in Sri Lanka. This tree has a nice story and a long history. Let me tell in brief. As you know, in the 3rd century BCE, Buddhism introduced to Sri Lanka, as we discussed in our second lecture. Emperor Asoka's son, Indian Emperor Asoka, he patronized and he sent missionaries to 9 countries, as we discussed. Then one of them, a group of monks, arrived in Sri Lanka. Venerable Mahinda, he was the leading monk, the leader of this group. He was a son of Emperor Asoka, and after that, as we discussed, his sister Sanghamitta, Emperor Asoka's daughter. After 3 months of Venerable Mahinda's arrival, she visited Sri Lanka. She arrived in Sri Lanka with the branch of or sapling of the Bodhi tree, under which Buddha became enlightenment. Buddha achieved awakening. Indian Bodhi tree. I'm talking about Indian Bodhi tree. She brought Venerable Sanghamitta. She is the founder of Sri Lankan, the order of nuns. When she when she come to Sri Lanka from India, she brought a sapling of Bodhi tree, under which Buddha became enlightened, Indian Bodhi tree. Then, according to historical sources, chronicles and archaeological sources, even Chinese travelers records. We already talked about Chinese travelers, Chinese monks. They traveled through Asian Buddhist countries. They have recorded this Bodhi tree. This tree has a long history. More, maybe this is the oldest sacred tree in the world. It has 2,300 years history. 2,300 years ago, it planted in the city of Anuradhapura, the oldest city in Sri Lanka, where Buddhism flourished at the beginning. It's a sacred tree. That is how Bodhi tree, actually, when the Buddha was alive too, the Bodhi tree became a symbol of the Buddha. But from this incident, it was very popular because Buddha was not alive anymore, but Bodhi tree was a symbol of, Bodhi tree symbolizes the Buddha. Then Buddhists always go there and perform religious activities. This is the incidents I couldn't show you guys through sea, how Venerable Sanghamitta arrived. It's a painting, imagination. Venerable Sanghamitta, here you see Emperor Asoka's daughter. She bring, here you see the sapling. Then Sri Lankan kings here, Sri Lankan king, he is welcoming, he was welcoming the sapling and nuns. Then it's a picture also, how did she bring a sapling of the main Bodhi tree. So this is how Sri Lankan Buddhists perform rituals at these premises. You see here, Bodhi tree, and they perform ritual activities. You want to take a break, short break for 5 minutes? Yeah, then let's take a break for 5 minutes.
Thanks.
Continue with our lecture. I'm going to share the screen. We were here So what we were discussing about Bodhi tree, the Bodhi tree, it's very famous in Sri Lanka especially. It's not that much popular in other Theravada Buddhist country. However, it's the worship of Bodhi tree. It's very famous in Sri Lanka, but not that much popular in other Theravada Buddhist country. Even in Mahayana Buddhism, as far as I know, it's not that much popular in Mahayana and Vajrayana Buddhist country too. So it's a symbol of the Buddha, as I already explained. So you see here how when people want to visit the Buddha, Buddha was not alive anymore, but he is alive through symbols. He is alive through symbols. Then people visit this tree, Bodhi tree. You see here, Sri Lankan Prime Minister, according to traditions, how he perform, how he visit the Buddha. Traditionally, offering to the Buddha, offering to the Buddha. Offering to the Bodhi tree means offering to the Buddha. He offered flowers and robes and some kind of things to the Bodhi tree. Indian Prime Minister, when he visited Sri Lanka, Narendra Modi, he is performing religious activities here at these premises, offering to the Buddha. Here, Sri Lankan president also. The next, let's discuss next symbol when we talk about symbols of the Buddha. Stupa, this is called pagoda. These kinds of buildings are very famous in almost every Buddhist countries. So this pagoda in Burma, it's called Swesigon Stupa. So it's a symbol of the Buddha. People offer to the Buddha, through this stupa, through this pagoda. And Sri Lankan style, a pagoda. So, except this, what I just talk, just before I talk about Lord Buddha Puja or offering to the Buddha. Then next, we have discussed about Dana ritual, Dana, the practice of giving. Actually, we have discussed this topic on Dana to some extent in our previous lectures. So Dana, it has actually two aspects. People perform it as a ritual, but it has a philosophical and doctrinal aspect a lot in terms of the path of purification, the path of Nibbana. Because by performing dana, one can reduce greedy or attachment to the things. Then ultimately it helps to achieve Nibbana. That is why The Bodhisattva, when he was seeking the Buddhahood, he practiced a lot dana. But he focused on it, especially its spiritual aspect, but I mean in terms of mind development, in order to reduce greed, or in order to show the world that his mind is ready to detach. His mind is ready to detach things. Until you are ready to detach things, attachment, you cannot ever achieve Nibbana. You know, that is why it's a hard goal. Huh? So through this practice, Buddhists, or in theory, through this practice, Buddhists had to practice their mind development. That's the philosophical aspect of this practice. Usually, that is how the Bodhisattva did. But in many cases, ordinary Buddhists, ordinary people, practice in a different ways as a ritual. So what they need, they are looking for merits. But as you know, ultimately merit is not help to achieve Nibbana, but directly, what I mean directly. Indirectly, it helps achieving merits, but directly, it doesn't help. But when if we can practice dana, or the practice of giving as Bodhisattva did, that's ultimately help to achieve Nibbana. That is what I want to emphasize. Anyway, in almost every Buddhist countries, irrespective of traditions, Buddhist, this is the most popular ritual or rites. That is what I can say. Offering. I just talk about offering to the Buddha, but it's not. It's a part of offering. Here, people offer to anyone, not only human beings, animals, irrespective of people's caste or religion. So Buddhism say you have to practice Buddhism. You have to practice generosity, giving. Things that you can offer according to Buddhism, I have put some here. You can see material things. Usually people easily offer material things. That's the easy, maybe food, maybe clothes, or whatever the things. Then fearlessness, that's one kind of giving. Fearlessness. I'll be talking on this. Education, one can donate by teaching free of charge, and life as Bodhisattva did, limbs, merits, Dhamma. These kinds of things, I just put examples. So people can offer these things wherever, sometimes in their houses, maybe in temples, wherever, on the roads, in workplaces, wherever. It's a broad concept, the practice of giving. In ordinary people cases, they are looking for merits, positive energy by performing these kinds of activities, by helping someone, by teaching someone to, and by offering or giving things to somebody, the person can achieve positive energy, happiness. In Buddhism, we call merits. Merits ultimately help to achieve a favorable rebirth in the cycle of rebirth, in the samsara, in the cycle of rebirth. So let me show you. I already saw this picture, this story. I already explained in my previous lectures how animals also practice generosity. It's about survival of everyone. So when the Buddha was in the forest for 3 months, he got alms. He received alms from animals. They helped the Buddha in order to survive, offering honeycombs and other fruits, these things. It's in Buddhist discourses, in early Buddhist discourses, this story. So you have seen this picture several times. It's famous, begging alms, usually Buddhist Sangha. You can see, especially these kinds of scenes in Southeast Asian countries. I got this, this picture is also in Peter Harvey's book, what's called An Introduction to Buddhism. It's a good book. Maybe you have read it. If you haven't, try to find this book, An Introduction to Buddhism, Peter Harvey, a British scholar. It's a good one. So it contains a broader discussion on Buddhist fundamentals and rituals, rites, everything in terms of 3 Buddhist traditions. The author, Peter Harvey, and British monks, British people, how they practice generosity, offering to the Sangha. This picture contained in his book. I got it from the internet. You already saw this picture. So blood donation, it's very famous in among Buddhists. Blood donation. Here, what you can see a picture how it happened in Sri Lanka. It's very famous. Now and then, Buddhists organize this in temples, in workplaces, wherever. It's very famous, these kinds of events. It's a part of dana. Then even organ donation, as Bodhisattva did, Buddhists also try to follow what the Bodhisattva practice. In a country like Sri Lanka, we see, people donate kidney. Sometimes, some people fill the application right after their death. The universities or medical schools, they can get some kinds of organs from the person's body right after their death. Maybe eyes or some kinds of organs. Before the death, people usually apply for that, for organ donations. It's very famous as a part of dana. This is why it's not just about material. It's about life, limbs, and these things. That is what I said. So here, this is very famous in Theravada Buddhist countries. I do not have that much knowledge about in Mahayana tradition, but what I see in Mahayana literature, we find examples or stories on this, releasing animals. So maybe birds from the cages. It's very famous as a part of dana. Because they have these animals have dedicated to animal slaughtering, but they are going to people are going to kill. Then what usually people do, they rescue these animals, cows, cattle, or birds, or what, whoever, whichever. So that's one part of these rituals. It's very famous, dana ritual. We have talked a lot in our lectures because it's very famous, popular practice. Then we are coming to another famous ritual, in every Buddhist tradition. It's called, Katina ceremony. It's called Katina ceremony. You see here the word Katina ceremony. It's a famous ceremony in every Buddhist tradition. This rainy retreats. Before that, actually, during the monsoon, during the month of the monsoon, July to October, it happened in South and Southeast Asian countries. Monks and nuns, they observe rainy retreat for 3 months. It started at the time of the Buddha, because in India at the time of the Buddha, during these months, Indian lot of rains, then monks or monastics couldn't walk, and Buddha enacted rules. It's about Buddhist Vinaya, to stay in monasteries during these months of the monsoon. So then monks used to stay in monasteries. Usually Buddhist monks, according to Buddha's advice, they travel village to village, city to city, and they taught the Dhamma. But during this time, especially for 3 months, during the rainy retreats, they limited to their monasteries, and then they could focus on their spiritual development. That was the good things. Otherwise, sometimes they couldn't focus on their spiritual development because they are traveling, they are on the way. They had to teach. So, but when they were in their monasteries, they could focus on meditation and their spiritual development. That's the good thing. So this tradition is continue. This tradition for 2,500 years. It started at the time of the Buddha. So even lay people, they can visit. They visit monasteries during these 3 months, and monks help some kinds of programs for them. At the end of this rainy retreats, it's going to be a big events or ceremonies, because people offer, especially lay people, offer robes to the Sangha. But I want to say, I couldn't say something. Usually rainy retreats, only Upasampada monks, what we call on the monks who got the high ordination, they can only observe these rainy retreats. Permanent members of the Buddhist Sangha. No, novice cannot, or Samanera, they cannot observe this rainy retreat. So then at the end of this ceremony, it's going to be a colorful events and ceremonies and a lot of things, especially lay people. They organize big ceremonies in order to offer robes, because monks always, they depend on the lay community. Then they provide the things that need to monastics at the end of this rainy retreats. There is a short video, Kore. Let's take a look at on Katina ceremony. Let's take a look at it.
I already have it up. You don't need to paste it.
You got it?
Yeah, just stop sharing your screen and I'll get it going.
Oh.
Katina ceremony.
In Thailand,
Katina robe offering is a wonderful Buddhist tradition that has been preserved for thousands of years since the Buddha's time. It is a custom established by the Buddha, permitting the lay community to make a respectful offering of robes to monks who have spent 3 months during Buddhist Lent, purifying their mind and body. The objective as envisioned by the Buddha was to foster harmony in the monastic community and to allow virtuous monks with worn-out robes to receive new sets. The fruit from this good deed is tremendous, as expounded in one of Lord Buddha's teachings, that Sanghadana, the offering of dana, yields positive consequences for the donor. The Vinaya, or the monastic code of discipline, specifies that Buddhist temples can organize a Katina ceremony only once a year. Additionally, Katina is also restricted to a period of 1 month after the final day of Buddhist Lent, from the first day of the 11th waning moon to the 15th day of the 12th waxing moon. Temples can select a day within this time interval to organize their respective Katina ceremony. Every year on the first Sunday of November, the splendid Katina robe offering ceremony is organized at the Dhammagaya temple, where over thousands of venerable monks and novice monks who have earnestly observed the Buddhist Lent for the past 3 months will act as fertile fields of merit for a multitude of loyal supporters from Thailand and abroad in attendance. Therefore, we cordially invite everyone to come join us in the Katina robe offering.
I think that's enough, correct? Correct. Then in Mahayana Buddhism, I just talk about Theravada ritual, but these kinds of rituals, Theravada rituals, they are not limited to Theravada tradition, but things are same in Mahayana tradition too. They have, in terms of rainy retreats or dana or Buddha puja, offering to the Buddha, things are same in Mahayana and Vajrayana tradition too. I want to emphasize it. However, we see some kinds of special rituals that have developed in Mahayana traditions, in the history of Mahayana Buddhism in India, and even it's continue in East Asian countries, and where Mahayana Buddhists live. Especially Bodhisattva, the veneration of kinds of bodhisattvas is that kind of ritual. So as we have discussed in our lecture series, it's a big concept, and Bodhisattva has a big role in Mahayana Buddhism. So everyone is considered as a Bodhisattva in Mahayana, from the perspective of Mahayana doctrines or practices. Then, meanwhile, in this tradition, we see kinds of Bodhisattva, and people organize kinds of events and rituals or ceremonies in order to respect or venerate bodhisattvas. That's unique. That's a unique ritual in Mahayana Buddhism, Mahayana tradition. So except this, I have put here two things, as you can see, relic worship and stupa worship. I already talked about stupa worship. Relic, I'll be talking on relic worship, in this lecture. But mantra repetition. We do not find this in Theravada tradition. Even we find paritha chanting. It's called protection. Kinds of chantings we find in Theravada tradition, in Theravada rituals. But this mantra repetition, mantra recitation is unique in Mahayana and Vajrayana Buddhist tradition, Mahayana and Vajrayana Buddhist traditions, especially Vajrayana tradition. You see, at the beginning, how monks and nuns, they recite mantras and magic, and they meanwhile while they are reciting, they use kinds of equipments. So by performing these kinds of, by reciting these kinds of mantras, they hope both worldly and mundane and supramundane spiritual achievements, mundane and supramundane spiritual achievements. In terms of mundanes, they hope to achieve positive energy by reciting mantras. For example, in the case of Mahayana tradition, in a sect, in a tradition like Pure Land Buddhism, reciting a recollection of the Buddha's virtue, Amitabha Buddha, and Namo Amitabha or Namo Amitabutsu in Japan. So by reciting these kinds of mantras, sentences, or people hope to achieve worldly benefits, including concentration, mind development, and beyond that, the final goal too. So in the case of Tibetan Buddhism, that's the actually this has something to do with the Hindu influence too, as I already talked. In Vajrayana, what happened in India, these, as you see, a lot of musical instruments, Hindu people use these musical instruments, even mantras, these things in India, in their religious activities. Vedic people use these mantras, magics. So then these Hindu things had influence Vajrayana tradition. That is how they developed, they absorbed, they incorporated Hindu things into Buddhist tradition. Anyway, those are actually what I see, those are kinds of ways or techniques that people can easily practice, maybe because sometimes it's not that easy to focus on meditation while sitting on a seat, or maybe in a lonely place, maybe in the forest. So, but people do like to recite and to use instrument, that this is the way it is. So anyway, using these kinds of instruments, they hope to achieve some spiritual development, or they use at this time too. In Vajrayana tradition. Bodhisattva worship, you have already seen this picture. I already show you guys. Next, we are coming to another part. It's about, this is a big event. This is a big event in terms of every Buddhist traditions, death rituals. So people organize this ritual right after the person's death, maybe depending on tradition, maybe in most cases, in a country like Sri Lanka, actually it organized in their houses, but in many countries, as I know, funerary rituals, death rituals, organized in a place like temples. Anyway, it's a big thing. The popular ritual practice, death rituals. Maybe after 1 or 2 or 3 days of the person's death, maybe after 7 days, according to Sri Lanka, after 7 days, after 3 months, anniversary, after 1 year, then annually. It's same in other Buddhist countries too. Maybe 7 days and monthly, annually. People organize these kinds of rituals, death rituals. In order to remember, it has to do with lot. It's not just one thing. It has to do with remembrance. It has to do with respect or fear too. Livings has livings, they have a fear on departed relatives. That's one thing. And on the other hand, according to Buddhist tradition, Buddha guided Buddhists to organize these kinds of rituals because of 2 things. That is what I can see. The first thing is compassion. It's a big concept in Buddhism, compassion. Then the living should have compassion towards departed relatives, because Buddhists believe reincarnation or rebirth. Then the livings do not know after person's death where he is, next rebirth. So just in case, if his or her condition is not good in terms of new rebirth, the living can develop or help to get proper situation in the cycle of rebirth. That is why living organize these kinds of rituals, and then they transfer what we call merits to departed relatives. That's the main purpose. That's the main purpose of this ritual. From the funeral, it's continue remembrance. It's about compassion towards departed relatives. Whenever they have a chance, whenever they have people organize these kinds of rituals, and then they collect merits. As a result of these rituals, they collect merits, and then they believe they can transfer these merits to the departed. Then if they need merits, depending on their new rebirth, they can develop their situation in a positive manner, in a favorable manner. That's the one thing. The other thing is, why did Buddha emphasize to organize these kinds of rituals? It's about gratitude. It's about gratitude. It's a good human quality, gratitude, as you know. So Buddha talked a lot about this quality, gratitude. As you know, he showed the world how should person practice gratitude, this concept. Then maybe departed relatives are our, friends, our parents, family members, whoever. We got help. Maybe they have dedicated their whole lives for the world or to the family. Then this is going to be a good human quality to remember them. And in terms of gratitude, what Buddhists do in that case too, as a part of gratitude, now they can transfer merits to departed relatives. Then two things, remember, I haven't put here on my slide these two concepts, but in general, according to the Buddha's guidance, Buddhists perform death rituals because of two facts, two reasons. One is it's about compassion. The other one is gratitude towards departed relatives. There are more than that, as I put here, it's about remembrance, or maybe living has, people have fear. Those are they are maybe this. They also the things. Actually, it's time to ask, because we are not going to have that much time to finish, because this is a 2-hour lecture. So we have to finish. I am happy if you have any questions, or we are going to go with, we have a bit to finish this rituals in terms of Buddhist ritual. But tomorrow, we will continue with these ritual practices. So then I can just summarize what I have discussed today. So it's about Buddhist rituals. Buddha did not encourage to practice ritual. Buddha did not encourage, or he always discouraged ritual practices. That is what I can say in brief. He criticized contemporary rituals at the time of at his time, like Vedic rituals, Brahmins rituals, like violation of human rights or animal rights by performing a lot of sacrifice or animal sacrifice. That is why he rejected. But as time went on, what happened, even when the Buddha was alive, especially in the case of lay people, lay followers, they did not have that much time to engage in developing meditation and spiritual activities, but they needed some kinds of religious activities in order to be a Buddhist or in order to be a practitioner of Buddhism. So that is why we see from the Buddha's time, kinds of rituals have started, began, and gradually they develop. When Buddhism evolved as a religion, not a philosophy, not a doctrine, it has a philosophical aspect, but apart from that, people used to develop, Buddhists used to develop rituals, especially in the case of lay followers, aspirations. Then it gradually developed, in three Buddhist traditions, in Theravada and Mahayana, even Vajrayana Buddhism too. We see the highest development in Vajrayana tradition, the latest Buddhist tradition, the third Buddhist tradition. It, as we discuss, it emerged after 1,000 years of the Buddha's passing away. It emerged after 1,000 years of the Buddha's passing away. So it's clear after 1,000 years of the Buddha's passing away, how Buddhism had produced a lot of rituals. We can see it, especially in terms of Vajrayana tradition. They got other influences like Hinduism and traditional indigenous rituals, and then they developed a lot of rituals. And in terms of philosophy, they hope to achieve everything. They hope to achieve everything. But I mean, spiritual goal, the highest goal, the Nibbana also through rituals, through ritual practices. That's the unique thing. When we compare it with other Buddhist tradition and early Buddhism, it's a big difference. It's a unique thing. That is how Buddhism had evolved rest of the Buddhist history. So then this is what discussed today, but we haven't, I haven't finished this discussion yet. We have something more to discuss, and I'll be talking on this in my next lecture tomorrow morning. So right now, if you have any question or concerns, it's time. I am happy to answer. And otherwise, let's stop and see you tomorrow morning.
Sounds good, Bhante. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm going to leave the meeting.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Good night.
Good night.
Or good morning.